Good morning. I hope you are pumped up with this great music. Some of you had a longer party yesterday evening. I saw people around 2 a.m., so I hope some of you have got sleep as well. So, what I'm talking today and who I'm see here in the audience, I see people who already have started a startup, founders. I see some people who are young, still looking for inspiration, what kind of company to start, to become an entrepreneur, and some of the investors as well to actually back up these crazy guys who try to change the world. And what does it mean? Starting something is always challenging, and you need to overcome various obstacles. And why do you even start that journey? Often you have a dream, you want to build something big, you want to maybe even change the world. And I can say from my experience is that especially the early days is the most important and most challenging. And you might even lose the focus and you don't know what you're doing exactly. So find people who support you and find the inner strength inside you. And I can also say every big thing, every big company you know globally, they have started from a really small thing. 1 or 2 persons and an idea here. And that's how you start. And then you work towards your larger goal, and that's how you do it. I was entrepreneurial when I recall first time I was 12. I was earning few things, pocket money and so on. During the school, I started organizing disco parties. In 90s, when I was in high school, I started learning HTML and first web technologies. And I started my first company in the first course of university in EBS. I was studying business. It was a web design company, and some folks from my course joined with the first internet portal of Estonia. It was acquired a year later, so we become part of Pennu, which was a listed computer manufacturer in Tallinn Stock Exchange. So on second course of university, I was a director of the listed company. Whoa, what a ride. But unfortunately, our internet side was growing well. We expanded to Latvia, Lithuania, but we were not able to make so much profit to cover the loss from this other mismanaged computer site. So in 2001, the company went bankrupt. Great experience from various ways. And also, this was one of the first failures in my career. I have multiple others, and mainly they are related to founders and their values. Are we aligned? Are we doing the same things? So choose your founders extra carefully. We started Bolt in 2013. Initially, it was called M-Taxo, and then when we started to expand, we renamed it to Taxify. And we started debating it with Markus. We started going to the streets, selling to taxi drivers, and trying to get them on board. It was difficult. They were hesitant. They said, we don't know anything about transport. And we didn't. But we had logic, and we saw problems on the market we wanted to solve, and we tackled them real hard. Started building the first prototype. Myself and my parents, we lent money to Markus so he could pay the freelancer. And we launched in August in Tallinn, and in September here in Tartu. And yeah, soon we had expansion plans, so that's why we needed to change the name to Taxify, which was more international. The first years were quite the hassle. We didn't have money, so we needed to use all kinds of ways to get publicity as a consumer product. We taped our father's old car. We put it in Laagna tee in Tallinn just to get people to understand us. We were constantly on the phone with all the journalists, get free media publicity. We managed to join Ajujaht, which is a TV show, super opportunity for consumer products. But we couldn't convince the journey, so they kicked out from top 20. And when the finals came in the spring, we developed and grew so fast, so he invited us back to the finals. But still then, we couldn't convince the journey that we are the best guys, so we were second. But we were really happy with the publicity, and the business was growing well in Estonia, and based on that, we managed to fundraise the first 1 million. Okay, now we thought things are great. Let's expand. We started going to the first cities, Riga, Helsinki, even to Amsterdam, and we understand the model we have in Tallinn is not working in other cities. So you need to adapt. We need to change our strategy 3 times in the first 3 years. So first year we focused on taxi drivers. Second year, we tried to work with the taxi companies. We thought, whoa, big fleets, they come easy. But the thing is, you don't control the decisions of the taxi company owners. So it was unpredictable and it was slow. So we needed another way. So we looked for the private driver model where every person can become a taxi driver, and then we started to control how fast we can add supply and how fast we can grow. So it's constantly challenges. But during these changes, actually some of our investors started to become hesitant. They said, I invested into a taxi company and not the private driver model. So they even wanted to sell their shares and jump off. But of course, looking back, they should believe in the team that actually has a vision, learns to the customers, adapts, and so on. Now, of course, they are happy. They have made 1,000 times. But at that time, they were really, really hesitant. So find also investors that believe in you and find a way, be strengthful. With this 1 million, we had to grow, we needed to expand, and the money was burning really, really fast. And if you look at the chart, you can see that for the next 3 years, we couldn't fundraise anything. And why was that? Because our competitors globally were raising hundreds of millions and billions. And so investors had a mindset, there is one big company that will become a global monopoly in the ride-hailing business. And if you know, then ride-hailing is a record-funded overall startup business. 70 billion euros have been invested into that industry. And we are then competing there with 1 million. And even today, we have a bit more, but still relative to the others, we are really an underdog. And so we keep going. We saw our numbers were constantly growing, but not as fast as the other guys, because we were still looking for the business model. We expanded to Africa, and there we found an actual need and real eager from drivers to join the platform, and the growth started to grow faster. And then we started seeing growth also in Europe, but based on the African expansion, the investors started to recognize that, okay, Bolt is out there, and maybe there wouldn't be a monopoly market, but there will be 2 or 3 players. So we managed to get funding from Didi and Daimler. One is the largest ride-hailing platform from China, and the other is one of the biggest car manufacturers in the world. So we raised more than 100 million, we became unicorn, and we thought, okay, now we're done. Is it really that easy? We have money in the bank, we just expand, we build new services. Okay, things are going cool. Not really. Challenges come all the way. Corona hit in. 85% of our rides dropped globally within few weeks. What do you do as a business manager when your business is gone basically within few weeks? You are in pretty dark mood. We had to sit down with, had to sit down with our employees and figure out what we do. So luckily, we had also the food delivery business already launched in the Baltics. And we quickly adapted most of our company focus to food delivery. In 10 days, we managed to build the grocery delivery. So we helped Selver's, Prisma's, and all the other supermarkets in Estonia and in the Baltics to start delivering groceries to the people sitting in the lockdowns. And additionally, we understood that scooters have become a really good way of transportation because they are only single person. In taxis, people didn't want to see other people close by or the public transportation as well. So scooters started to pick up as well. And with food, in 12 months, we expanded to 16 countries. So this helped us to offer alternative income opportunities for the drivers who lost their rides from passenger delivery. Okay, we started seeing when lockdowns kick in, our competitors started firing people, tens of % of people, and for bigger companies, that meant tens of thousands of people. We needed to decide what to do. And I would say Bolt team is instrumental. We were not willing to let go the great people who were so eagerly hired to the company. So we agreed with the whole team, we will take 30% pay cut for at least few months to go through this really unknown period because no one didn't know how long the lockdowns will last. And so we came through this crisis without firing anyone. Everyone is still there, and that gave us a strong boost as a team to perform really well. And if we look now back, we have been growing 6 times in volumes from this pre-COVID times. And our bigger competitors Uber are now getting back to the same level as they were pre-COVID. So if you work hard, you have a cool team, you are adaptive, you can actually win a massive market share during these difficult times. And why is that? I really believe, and talking to our employees, they say is that they believe in our mission. And if you try to find people, then make sure that they understand what you do and what is your mission, actually. And these, as I said, the crisis times can be really stressful. There are always obstacles, but if you believe in your team and you believe in longer-term mission and you see day by day you are doing progress, that's really rewarding. And how we can motivate these people is that all Bolt employees also have stock options. So everyone is acting as entrepreneur, and everyone understands that every euro that I'm spending, it needs to bring back much more. And I would also recommend you to, if you hire people, spend more time and try to find the perfect fit rather than on halfway try to find something that looks okay-ish. But in longer term, if in few months you figure out that's not a good person, then it costs you more and you have lost time and you need to restart the hiring and all of that. So this is the principle in Bolt. We always try to make sure the candidate is perfect, and then it's even more important for the founders. So how do you choose great founders? I would recommend, for example, hackathons is a super cool way. In 48 hours, you need to work really intensively towards a very specific goal, and you see how these people are performing. Can they focus? Do they do only the most important things? Do they get nervous? And so on, and how do you get along? So try to find these kind of experiences to really validate that the founders, you jump into some business and then startups is a marathon, that you are really sure your values and working ethics are aligned. Okay, we came through COVID. We have been growing 6 times. So what's next? There are never enough situations where there are no challenges. So what are we going to today? Our current mission is to build cities for people and not for cars. Unfortunately, the situation is much different. So why is cities that important? 70% of people in Estonia and actually globally are already living in the cities. But if we look at statistics, then the city centers are not growing fast, but it's actually the suburbs. People are moving out of cities because the cities are not that great place to live anymore. If we look at our neighbors, Tallinn has 53% of rides done by private cars, and we have free public transport. Why is that? And the car usage is even in the growing trend. If we continue in that trend, Estonia can celebrate next year 1 million registered cars. Some people might think it's a great achievement. I think it's actually not. And why is that? We can see that our neighbors in Helsinki and in Stockholm, the car usage is actually in decline because people have understood that this is not really a sustainable method of transportation, and we just can't fit more cars in a city. You might have seen that picture. Transporting 60 people with public transportation takes the least space. And the shared space between the houses in a city is the most valuable currency you have. How do we use it? Is it efficient, or is it just used by the metal boxes? And then I would call car is a 2-ton metal box that is designed to transport 5 people. But based on statistics, and when you look in the traffic jams in the morning, on average, 1 car has 1.2 persons. It's not efficient. So that's why we are now trying to educate the cities and people that there are much better ways to move around and even to understand why people move that much. And I would call it epidemic car dependency that has been evolved for the last 40 years in our cities in Estonia, but also globally. It starts when people start to get more cars, and then cities start to prioritize that. They make wider car lines, and cars are standing actually 95% of the time, so you need more parking spots. And then people start to realize that if there are so much cars, other modes of transportation and often greenery are taken out from the city center, and people feel, okay, I need to move out because it's not good environment, and they move to suburbs. And the distance from the places they need to go gets longer, so people need to buy even more cars. And then we are back in this cycle. Cities see that there are more cars, more wider lines, and this cycle has been going on for 4 decades at least. So how to turn it around? We believe that we need to replace all the use cases of private car ownership with better alternatives, more sustainable and more affordable. And so, how does it work? For shorter distances, few kilometers, you can walk or use scooters, bikes, and bikes as well. Then for medium distances, you can take a taxi or use the public transportation. And for longer distances, going to the countryside or coming to Tartu, if you don't want to take a train, you can use a rental car. And this is what we are now building out, the infrastructure, to really offer better alternatives to private car ownership. So, why we think this is an important challenge, I just explained, and why we think Bolt is very well positioned as one of the few companies to actually tackle that, is that we offer multiple services and we can educate people. While taking a taxi, we can nudge you and say that, hey, by the way, there is a bike or scooter nearby, maybe take that one. So this is a massive challenge for the next decade that Bolt is tackling. And by now, you can see we already expanded in 400 cities, and this is our playground where we really try to implement that new and very, very challenging mission. And our people really believe in that. That's why they have now joined Bolt. Last week, for example, we also expanded to Nepal and El Salvador, so we keep expanding and widening the horizon where to change the cities. And I'm also really proud that we have one of the best investors in the world, for example, Sequoia and Fidelity, also supporting our mission, and actually they invested into our Estonian company. So I hope that by bringing these investments to Estonia, it helps also all the next founders to keep their headquarters here. This is a smaller part of the wider mission as well. So what I would like you to take away from my talk today is that if you start a company, try to figure out, do you have a mission, and what is this mission? Do you have a wider purpose? And I really say that if you have it, it helps you to align all your decisions, and it helps you to choose the team members, the founders, the investors, everyone, so you would be aligned for the longer term goal. And we have at least 2 or 3 decades we see ahead how we can make the world better. So I hope you find your mission as well. Secondly, there are always challenges. I would say the main maybe assignment or task of an entrepreneur is to overcoming challenges, and this is daily. And don't get too frustrated, but think of it as a learning opportunity, and if you do it better than your competition, then you can win. And it's not the big ones usually that win, but it's the most adaptive and fast companies. And we have shown that as well. By much less funding, we have been able to tackle and win market share from the global giants of tens of billions of funding. And I believe you can do that as well. And finally, as I said, people are the ones that actually help you to achieve your mission and to build really, really great companies. So put a lot of effort and choose them very carefully. And then when you have great people on the bus, you can go wherever you want and you can change the route on the way, but people really matter. Bolt is turning 10 years old, and it hasn't been an easy ride. Maybe if you look at outside, you see news who are growing, but I can assure you that inside the company, you need to overcome challenges every day, and you can do it by really great people. But as I said, we are not done. We have this much bigger mission now to transform the cities to be more people-friendly, and we are working really, really hard to do that. I have another fireside chat today, so if you want to have more insights of how we are doing things and you want to ask questions, then you are welcome there. But overall, I would say, dream big and let's change the world. Yeah!
Thank you, sir. All right, let's get into the questions. There's a lot of different questions, but I really want to focus on the leadership topics. This is the real good stuff in here. You have expanded to many countries. Now, it's one thing to expand, let's say in Estonia, you can meet the people, you can see them. I can even go to Riga. How do you communicate this mission when you're just opening offices in so many, how do you communicate leadership remotely? How do you start a new office?
How do we start an office? It depends of the time. In African scale, we started initially over Skype. We hired people remotely. Now we have a bit more funds, so we do it a bit more structurally. So we send some people there early days as well. We bring them to headquarters, so they would clearly have a great onboarding. They understand our culture. And I would say that it's really important. It starts from the founders. So if you look at Markus, he doesn't have driver's license, so he's walking to the office. I'm using bikes and scooters every day throughout the year, every day, even if it's snowing, and I hear people saying that, yeah, you can't use bike scooters in the winter. It's actually not true.
Yes, you can. I do it.
So it starts from these really simple things. You being a role model and showing what do you mean by the culture, being frugal, and how to live it every day, and then people understand it and they follow you.
Okay, and that's fine for you to do. I mean, I saw you yesterday on the train. This dude's on the train with his Copenhagen-style, like, box bike, right? And you can't believe he's the co-founder of one of the biggest companies in the world, and he's just getting on the train. Were you even in first class? I wasn't even sure.
I think I was, and that was more crowded than the normal seats.
Yeah,
so it was a mistake.
Because everyone coming to STARTUp,
could have
really
saved
special.
€2, actually, so.
All right, what about, again on leadership, it hasn't been an easy path. I remember back in the day, Comedy Estonia, we did like a show, you had a meeting with all the taxi drivers, and my friend Carl on the other stage did the opening comedy show, and his description of the taxi driver's mood was, at best, hostile. It's tough, when you're changing markets, particularly like taxis, right? Oldest trick in the book almost. So you've got to show this leadership to your team, and you've got these people, that's tough. They actively don't want this, but it's good for them, but they don't want it. Tell us about these challenges of dealing with that hostility.
As I said, actually, we jumped into transportation industry not knowing about transport. And I think that's even sometimes good, because when you are 20 years in an industry, you have the stereotypes, you think how things have been done all the time. But when you come in as a fresh guy, you figure out there are so many inefficiencies, so you have to figure out what is important for the passenger. It's how fast the car comes, how much it costs, and is it clean, and I can pay conveniently. That's what the industry did not realize. And for the taxi drivers, the industry was very well of fleet management, when to change the oil and when to change the tire, but the customer experience was not the priority. And for the drivers then, we focused on the utilization, how much of their time they're actually driving with paid rides with customers, and what's their hourly income. And these are the most important parts that you need to focus. So if you use poor logic and think of an industry, as a newcomer, you can come in and see opportunities that the old guys don't see. So often I recommend you to go into new industries, analyze it, and you figure that out. It can be a massive advantage.
But what happens when you tell them the logic, you show them the numbers, and they still don't like you? How do you push through that and motivate your team to get through that?
You just work hard. There are always some pioneers in each of the group. Usually it's 10-15% that are willing to give a try. And if they get a good experience, then you multiply that to the others. You share experience, and they share experience, and then that's how you do it.
Has this helped you now that you're getting more into restaurants? You've learned these lessons from dealing with the taxi drivers, that now you're better at working with the restaurants?
Yeah, I think still, in longer term, numbers do the business, and if you make decisions based on the numbers, you explain numbers to the people that might maybe not understand it in the first place. In longer term, still numbers make sense.
Okay. We got time for one more question here. Talking about the mission as well, I didn't understand quite from your talk. Did the mission change as your goals changed? And tell us about changing the mission and then recommunicating, hey guys, now it's not just like, oh, now we're doing the independent drivers. It's now we're changing the mission. That's a slightly different idea. Tell us about changing the mission.
We started the business to solve the challenges of the taxi industry. But on the way, we understand that this only helps part of the cities, and the cities are much more messed up. So we really need to take a bigger look and then solve the whole ecosystem of the city transportation. And that's what we're tackling now. And then that's why we changed our brand, our values, and then it has been evolving. And I think that's logical. You don't know what you're going to do in 5 or 10 years. You need to adapt and then pick new challenges.
Okay, so part of the mission is knowing the mission will change.
It will evolve, I would say.
Evolve, that's a better word for it. All right, we're out of time, but I just want to thank you. I live in Tallinn, not Tartu, I'm sorry, but it is good to live in the Bolt test market. I love having all your services here, and yes, scooters in the winter, please, 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 it's so good. I don't really want to ride a tool, I just can't get a Bolt in the winter. Round of applause, please, for Martin. Thank you.